taking a look now at the 2026 World Cup, the teams that have qualified so far. So 31 teams have qualified, there's 17 spots remaining, 3 of them being in CONCACAF, 1 of those being in CAF, and 11 in UEFA. Okay, so Gattuso had to say, so the Italian manager had some words to say on the difficulties of European nations making the 48-team World Cup. He said, "It's not a question for me, but it is for whoever draws up the rules and the groups. In 1994, there were 2 African teams in the World Cup. Now there have to be many, and it keeps expanding. In my day, the top team in each group would go through, plus the best runners-up. We've got 18 points, won 6 games, and still we have to go into another 2 matches to qualify. It doesn't seem right." Okay, so Geoff, do you agree with what Gattuso is saying, considering now it's a 48-team format rather than a 32?
Well, I think we all know he wouldn't be saying it had they qualified. That's the first thing. This is somebody who's not in a good spot. But statistically, what he's saying is correct in that in 94, the World Cup he's referring to, which was a 2014 final, 13 were European. That means that 54% were European. The current ratio to go this World Cup is 33%. So it's lower. The numbers are lower. 29% of European teams that started with qualification will qualify. From South America, it'll be 60% of teams who went to qualification. So statistically, he's correct. But Nico, that doesn't tell the whole story, does it?
Yeah, I'm not buying this load of crap.
Hey, I worked hard on that.
Yeah, no, I totally get the numbers.
Congrats.
And sure, but Gattuso, focus on your national team before you start throwing shots. Like, even if, let's just say...
We said that, but is he right, though, in what he says in terms of the numbers?
Yes, statistically, sure. UEFA is still the confederation that allows the most berths for a World Cup. Sure, South America gets, what, we're talking about 50% of the teams make the World Cup, but that's because there's 9 teams that compete in South America. Like, you got to give them a fair representative allotment of slots to go to the World Cup. Like, I'm sorry you couldn't beat Norway once. You know, you got handled twice. And let's just say it was a more generous group, more teams. You probably wouldn't even be going to the World Cup full stop. You're Italy. Italy, you won 4 World Cups, Gattuso. Like, you still have an opportunity. And talk about generosity. Sweden has not won a single game in World Cup qualifying. 0 wins.
Yet they could still qualify.
They have a shot of making the World Cup. Talk to me about ridiculousness. This is the most generous World Cup qualifying process in the history of football. And Italy, the 4-time World Cup champion, Italy, has the nerve to complain about it being too difficult? Cry me a freaking river, please.
I don't like it, Nico, because there's just not enough jeopardy in these games. There's just not enough, you know. Teams going to playoffs, and then teams who potentially their conference league place. Ali, is it for you?
Look, I just want to point out that with an expanded World Cup, you get so much more representation in the tournament. And it is a World Cup. And we finally, in the women's game, we saw the increase from 2019 to 2023. And what that has done for the growth of the game cannot be ignored. I also would like to mention that there were 3 African teams in the 1994 World Cup, so he needs to get his stats correct.
Right.
But I just think that, yes, the quality of games at this next World Cup may not increase just because of the increased representation. But what having a diverse representation at this World Cup will lead to is an increased quality overall for the global game. And I think that is what we want. So there can be an argument of how many berths should come from this place and this place, but I have seen firsthand what having this increased representation has done. And I think it's a really, really good thing. We might just have to see it at the next World Cup or the next World Cup. But for me, that's what it's about.
I mean, the more I think about it, this is so ridiculous from Gattuso. Like, compared to his football in the 90s, where it was much more Eurocentric, where the quality was surrounded much more around the European continent. Now, the top European teams have gotten so much better than the rest of the pack. I mean, talk about France qualifying to the World Cup with a +12 goal difference. Spain qualifying to the World Cup with a +19 goal difference, very likely. Portugal with a +13. England didn't concede a single goal, for God's sake. This just seems like Gattuso deflecting from the real issue, which is Italy not making the last 2 World Cups. Italy, again...
And might not make the third.
A powerhouse in world football. You know how many World Cup games they've won since they last lifted a World Cup trophy?
In 2006.
1 game. Italy has won 1 World Cup game since they lifted the World Cup trophy in 2006.
Okay.
This seems like a Gattuso problem and not the rest of the world problem.
If it wasn't Gattuso saying it, it was somebody else, would you take the comment more seriously?
Depends who.
It's Thomas Tuchel.
It would be just as ridiculous. If it's...
You don't just base it off Italy's form at the moment, then?
I'm not taking this from a French manager, from a Spanish manager, from a Portuguese, Belgian, German, Italian.
English.
The powerhouses. UEFA is so easy to qualify. I want to see you come to South America and go to Bolivia, 3,000 meters altitude. Go to El Defensores del Chaco in Paraguay. It's not the same as going away to San Marino, going away to Liechtenstein, going away to Faroe Islands, although Faroe Islands actually put up a decent qualifying fight. But the quality in Europe, there's 50-something countries in Europe. Playing football is notoriously difficult. There aren't that many great teams in the world, by the way. And it just comes to show you how easy World Cup qualifying is for the powerhouses of Europe. And now that you're having a struggling time, you have the audacity to complain that it was easier before than it is now. You're Italy, bro. It's not like if you were...
Unfortunately, Nico, I think it's a case of you were Italy.
Yeah.
They're not Italy anymore, are they?
Absolutely right.
This is not a new thing. This is a continuous pattern. And can you imagine if they don't qualify again?
Do you think they won't? Well, do you think they'll come out of these playoffs?
That extensive research you and I did yesterday in the pub, which was the Conference League, who can get through, they're not on that list, are they? So they've got to win.
But I do agree with Nico in the fact of these European powerhouses, like in England, Geoff. People aren't watching these World Cup qualifiers like with a lot of excitement. The country only comes together when it's the Euros and it's the World Cup, because when they've got these qualifiers, they're playing against teams like you said, Nico, Faroe Islands.
Albania, Serbia, Latvia, and Andorra, with all due respect,
but then you look
incredible
at,
for
the
Albania.
teams in South America, when Nico talks about their World Cup qualifying, with the passion, with how the fans get behind these countries, I feel like they don't with these powerhouses in Europe. And they've got the most spots into the World Cup.
Well, it goes that hand in hand. Goes back to what I said just now. Is the lack of jeopardy. It's too easy to qualify, and also the standard of a lot of the opposition. If they don't qualify, there should be an inquest, which makes Italy's position even worse.
I mean, Italy hasn't gone to the last 2 World Cups because they tripped up in the playoff. They lost in 2018 World Cup qualifying cycle to Sweden, and then they lost to North Macedonia. That, to me, says that you didn't deserve to go to the World Cup. It's not because of the qualifying process, it's because you weren't good enough. Do I want to see Italy at a World Cup? Of course. They're one of the most traditional teams in football history. A World Cup without Italy for a 3rd consecutive time would feel wrong. But again, if they go through the interconfederation playoff and can't beat New Caledonia and then Bolivia, maybe you don't deserve to be at a World Cup.
Right, it's like you're saying, that's not the Italy that we want to see.
Excuse me, sorry, not the interconfederation playoff. In the European playoff.
Whatever it is.
You know?
So you don't even know what it is anymore?
No, it's the Nations League. But for me, I don't want to see Italy there because of who they are. And you've got to be there on merit. It's as simple as that. So if you don't make it, you don't deserve to be there.
You got spanked, handled by Norway. Not once, twice. And then there were a couple of close calls throughout the way. You almost got done by Israel.
You didn't hand out hammerings like Norway did to the other teams. You didn't go and score a barrel full of goals.
And again, I understand they have Haaland, who's arguably the best player in the world right now. It's not like Norway has this football history and the infrastructure that Italy might have, the history, the almost a century-plus long history to back your football structure. There's obviously issues happening at the Italian national team that are deep-seated that keep on showing up in these World Cup cycles.
We keep waiting for them to have their Germany moment. Do you remember when Germany had their meltdown? They said, right, we go back to basics, we start again.
Yeah.
And they rebuilt. And there was a serious a root and branch review, and they rebuilt the house from the bottom upwards, and they've reaped the benefits from it. Italy have got to do something like that. If they don't qualify again, then...
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
That draw is midweek, right? After
the final European games.
the final European games, I guess the draw.
The 20th.
20th.
What is that?
2 days.
Wednesday?
I think it's the
Thursday?
Thursday.
No.
I don't even know what day it is. Oh, Thursday.
Well, no, at March, who they're facing to make the World Cup.
There's kind of two stories to this new format. Is there too many teams where people just get in on the basis of anything? But then there's the story of like Morocco that we saw in the 2022 World Cup, the first African team to reach a semi-final.
Yeah,
so you get stories like that.
Morocco was good, and Morocco, obviously, I think 32 is like the sweet spot of teams. Morocco had to go through hoops to get to the World Cup, and they got there. And obviously now the World Cup qualifying cycle is more generous. It's easier for a lot of teams because there's more teams that qualify, so you have statistically a better opportunity. But there's one thing that's merit, and there's one thing that you should just kind of go because you're Italy. No, you have to go.
No.
You have to complete what's asked from you, and Italy has been so far off the mark. Thanks for watching this video from Morning Footy. For all news and insights regarding leagues around the world like EFL, Serie A, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.